Yeah, they do look a little close. There. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Yes. All right. Yeah. Wow, there's some shakas being thrown. Is it started? Is it recording? Is it doing the thing? It's having a conniption. Welcome back, Cruz. Oh, perfect. Surprise, surprise. All right. We're going to pray, and then we're going to get started with Revelation chapter 11. So you can start turning there, but I'm going to pray. God, we're about to study your word. We want to take this time, and we want to use it to its fullest effect. We do not want to waste time. So, as we do this, would our eyes be fixed on both the scriptures, but on you and your character, and how our perception of you changes as a result of studying your word. Just help us in this time. We need help. I need help. Help us, please, in Jesus' name. Amen. So, who wants to recap for me what we've learned about the book of Revelation thus far? Like just something that you've learned about the book of Revelation. Cameron. It goes back to so many other books of the Bible. That is so correct. Okay, other things you've learned about the book of Revelation. Nobody else has learned anything else. It's weird. Okay, that's good, Maria. It's confusing, yes. Is it meant to be confusing? Yes. Yes, it is. It's intentionally confusing. Why is it intentionally confusing? That's one of the reasons, yes. Also, so that the people who are reading it can either take the time to learn what they're trying to say, or they can completely ignore it. It's kind of like a parable, right? Why did Jesus tell parables? So that people that wanted to see could see, and people that did not want to see did not have to see. Yes? Same kind of idea? Cool. Other things that you've learned about the book of Revelation thus far? Yes. Okay. Wait. So, we've got an intro. We've got the letters to the churches. And then we've got all of these dioramas that we're going through, right? The dioramas, right? And so if you read it as those are dioramas rather than that's one continuous timeline. So, Book of Revelation, apocalyptic literature in general does not function on a regular timeline where you're like, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and it's all in order. Nope, that's not how it works. Great point, Zori. Fantastic. Okay, anything else that we've learned about the book of Revelation or ponderings that you've had since the last time we got together? So we've done Revelation 1, part of Revelation 2 and 3. We've done some of Revelation 4 and 5-ish. And then this week we're jumping to 11 because we want to get into the middle of one of the dioramas. Okay? And this is just kind of an example. I picked 11 because I want to get to 12 because 12 and 13 are like the stuff that everybody hears about in the book of Revelation, especially 12. It's wacky stuff. So we're going to try and do our best. But remember, this stuff is not in a contextual, like, timeline order. This is just stuff that's all happening around him. He's hearing things, and then he's seeing things. You remember that part too? Right? He hears something, and then he'll turn and look at it, and it's something completely different than what he thought he heard. Yes? Okay. All right. Then there was given me a measuring rod, like a staff. Yeah, I'm going to brighten this up just a little bit so I can see it more. And someone said, get up and measure. Oh, gosh. Sorry, friends. That's really hard to see. Get up and measure the house of God and the altar and those who worship in it. What's he supposed to measure? Okay. And the altar. Okay. So, now notice this. Leave out the court, which is outside the house, and do not measure it. So there's a fourth thing. Don't measure that. Why? For it has been given to the nations, and they will tread underfoot the holy city for 42 months. I'm going to tell you right now that the timeline of 42 months shows up in this diorama over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then it shows up in the next diorama over and over and over and over and over again. Why? I don't know. How long is 42 months? Anybody got that? 3 years and 6 months. 3.5 years. It's also 1,260 days. Yes, Ezra.
You read ahead.
Math.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, Ezra. Okay. For 42 months. And I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, also 42 months. Clothed in sackcloth. What do you usually do when you are clothed in sackcloth in the scriptures? You are mourning. Like, not like early in the day, but like very sad about something. Yes? Grieving. Okay, those witnesses, are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth. Wait, okay, so fun story. If you guys just read that, not seeing my little references that I have down there, you wouldn't know that he's quoting from the book of Zechariah. But we just had Zechariah chapter 2 up here, and now we have Zechariah chapter 4 down here. You think he's like referencing back to the book of Zechariah much? We're about to have, but also wait, he mentioned the lampstands earlier. Where were the lampstands before? The lampstands are the churches. There's layers upon layers. These 2 are the olive trees and the 2 lampstands. So are they? They're two witnesses who prophesy, and they're also the churches. Are they the churches, or is this different? And that's the question you have to kind of sit in. We have to figure out. Okay, let's keep going. If anyone wants to harm them, the prophets, fire flows out of their mouth and devours their enemies. That's gnarly. Have you ever seen fire flow out of anyone's mouth aside from Uncle Iro? Thank you for laughing.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
Fire breathers? Yeah. That's the only time I've ever seen fire flow out of anybody's mouth to devour anything. But it never really devours anything because they don't really blow it at people, right? It's a circus act more than a defensive maneuver, right? I've never seen anybody like breathe fire to defend themselves aside from in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Oh, and a dragon. Okay, you are correct. But they're not. Yeah, I know. You guys are both saying it, but yes, I know. Yes. Dragons also use fire out of their breath. Wait, but we haven't. Have we heard about a dragon yet in this? Not. Wait, let's look back. Everybody scan. See if there's a dragon anywhere else before this point. There is in chapter 12, but we're not there yet. He's foreshadowing. These aren't the dragons, right? Let's not get into unicorns today.
You know a rhinoceros is technically a unicorn?
No, unless it's a double-horned unicorn. Why are there 2 horns coming out of a rhinoceros in some of them? Oh, okay. All right. We'll go with that. All right. Moving onward. Let's just admit that we need to admit that this is already really, really weird, right? These prophets are breathing fire to defend themselves. So if anyone wants to harm them, he must be killed in this way. These have the powers to shut up the sky so that rain will not fall during the days of their prophesying. Who else did that? Do you guys remember from the Hebrew Scriptures, the Old Testament?
The one that prayed for no rain, and then there was.
Who was that?
Was it Elijah?
Elijah. Yes, the first one.
I said Elijah.
Okay.
Not Elisha.
Not Elisha. Elijah is, you kind of blended the two, which is why I was like, All right. They have power over the waters to turn them into blood. Wait, who did that? Moses. To strike the earth with every plague as often as they desire. Also Moses, yes?
Yep.
When they have finished or completed their testimony or their witness, that should be highlighted in black instead of in green. The beast that comes up out of the abyss will make war with them and overcome them and kill them. Wait, where have we heard about overcoming before?
It's a word.
No, not just previous reference to overcome in this book.
In the letters.
In the letters to the churches, to the one who overcomes, right? This theme has not left. It's still here in the dioramas. Overcoming is important. Is it different or is it the same? We don't know. Apparently the beast will overcome these prophets. What does that mean? What does that look like? How did it look like in the case of Elijah and Moses? Because we might be able to draw some connections there. You guys seeing what I'm seeing? Think about Moses and Elijah. Did those two die?
Yes.
They did. I have another question. Did God use supernatural acts through Moses and Elijah to destroy their enemies?
Yes.
Never fire flowing out of the mouth, but fire came out of heaven to devour the offering on the altar in the case of Elijah. You guys remember that story?
Oh, the water too.
Yeah. And then Elijah went and destroyed all the prophets of Baal.
Yep.
Yes? Did God use a pillar of fire from heaven in the case of Moses as he's... So fire's like this common theme with Moses and Elijah. It just hasn't happened coming from their mouths. But wait, they were speaking on behalf of the Lord and prophesying. How do we draw connections to that? There's lots going on here. Okay. So the beast that comes up out of the abyss will make war with them, overcome with them, and kill them. And their dead bodies will lie in the streets of the great city, which mystically is called Sodom and Egypt. We've heard about both of those places. But wait, mystically is called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. So wait, where is Sodom and Egypt? Where was Jesus crucified? Jerusalem. So wait, why is Jerusalem, Sodom, and Egypt? Yeah, but also so thus far, for the longest time, Jerusalem is the place where the temple of God is, and where the Israelites think that God's not going to let go of this place because it's his chosen city. And then through the prophets, God says, hey, you guys are just as wicked as Sodom was, and you are just as wicked as Egypt was. If you don't believe me, go read the book of Ezekiel. It's quite plain there. But this guy is connecting things like the book of Ezekiel. I didn't write down Ezekiel in here, but I should have. I'm trying to remember where it is. 27, 28, 29? It's 27 through 33 or 34. Right before, Ezekiel 33 is when the Watchmen stuff starts happening. So, yeah, it's 27 through 32. Not verses. I'm talking about is the book of Ezekiel, chapters 27 through 32. There's a whole host of God talking and pronouncing judgments against Sodom and Egypt, and there's a few other nations, Edom, and there's a few others. It's okay. We'll get there. Maybe we won't get there, but you'll get there eventually. Let's keep reading. Those from the peoples and the tribes and tongues and nations will look at their dead bodies for 3.5 days. That's a convenient number. Wasn't the number about 42 months, 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Interesting. And will not permit their dead bodies to be laid in a tomb. And those who dwell on the earth will rejoice over them and celebrate, and they will send gifts to one another, because these two prophets tormented those who dwell on the earth. Why did these two prophets torment those who dwell on the earth? How did they do that?
By breathing fire.
By breathing fire, it looks like, yeah. Sending plagues, breathing fire. Can we try to make it? So here's what I would like to say is what is coming out of their mouths is bringing death to those who are opposing God. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
You're so confused? I would also like to point out that Moses and Elijah are the most commonly referenced ones when you want to talk about the books of the Hebrew Scriptures. You have the law, which is the books of Moses, and the prophets, which are commonly just referred to as Elijah. And then you have the other writings. Interesting, yes? So the Scriptures when looked at by the people who are of the earth or of the beast, when they look at those words, it brings them death. Does that make sense? That is one understanding of this reading of the scriptures. There are more. That's just one way to look at it. Does that make sense? After 3.5 days, the breath of life from God came into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon those who were watching them. And they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." Then they went up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies watched them. And in that hour there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified or feared, and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past. Behold, the third woe is coming quickly. So wait, we've missed a woe. Notice that I started us halfway through this diorama? I did that on purpose, so that you'd have to go back and figure out what the heck is the first woe? What's happening? Then the seventh messenger sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven. Wait, the seventh messenger? Where are the previous 6? Or for you guys, it's this way. Go backwards. And there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever." Have you guys ever listened to Handel's Messiah? Every time I read this line, I hear him, "And he shall reign forever and ever." Over and over and over again. King of kings, do. The Hallelujah chorus, yes? Okay. And the 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshiped God, saying, wait, didn't we read about this in chapters 4 and 5? It's another diorama ending. The 24 elders are doing exactly what they did before, but now there's going to be a different song. "We give you thanks, O Lord God, the Almighty, who are and who were, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign." Wait, he's just beginning to reign? "And the nations were enraged, and your wrath came, and the time came for the dead to be judged, and the time to reward your bondservants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, the small and the great, and to destroy those who destroy the earth." Interesting. "And the house of God, which is in heaven, was opened, and the ark of his covenant appeared in his house," or in his temple. "And there were flashes of lightning and sounds and peals of thunder and an earthquake and a great hailstorm." Where did the hailstorm come from? What the heck? Only other place I remember hearing about hail is from the plagues of Moses. More riddles inside riddles. Was this fun? Are you guys interested? Or are you like so confused you're like, I have no idea where to start? How many of you guys are like, this is beyond confusing, I hate this? Oh, you don't hate it, but it's really beyond confusing? Okay. Ezra's like, it's pretty confusing. You don't hate it. Well, I'm glad you don't hate it. I didn't mean it like, oh gosh, you admit that you hate the Bible and we'll just accuse you of stuff. That's not what I'm going for, right? But like, this is puzzling. It's okay to admit that this is really puzzling, really confusing. The only way that it gets easier is one of 2 ways. Go get really good at understanding the rest of the scriptures and then come back to it, or sit in it. Those are the 2 ways. Does that make sense? And then hang out with people who understand the scriptures and ask them lots and lots and lots of questions. Cool? What time are we at? 24. You want to get to the dragon? So that's the next 2 chapters. Okay, let's do that now. Ireland's excited. Is anybody else excited for the dragon? Malachi's excited for the dragon? Yeah! The dragon! Malachi loves dragons? Oh, Abby loves dragons. Yes, you make the little paper dragons, yeah? Those things are... Oh, yeah, no, this dragon's not nearly as cool. This is not a nice dragon. It's not like How to Train Your Dragon. This is different. Okay, wait, how many of you guys, like How to Train Your Dragon is like one of your favorite movies from your childhood? It's not from my childhood. I was like an adult when it happened, but yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Agreed, Josie. It's such a good soundtrack. Okay. I was just asking that question. That's all I was saying. Okay, so we got like 4 of you that get How to Train Your Dragon. This is not the same dragon. Different dragon, bad dragon. Bad dragon. Bad dragon. Okay, here we go. Aren't all dragons bad dragons?
Not toothless.
Toothless is not a bad dragon.
Toothless is a good dragon.
Oh. What a strange world we live in. We should watch How to Train Your Dragon for class. Okay, wait. Ireland? It's not supposed to be pink. It's supposed to be like a red. It's like humanity, like mankind. All of that is going to be in some sort of red color. Yeah. Yep. So woman, man, mankind, child is going to be a similar vein, right? These are all the same kinds of colors. Yes. So woman and man are going to be highlighted in the dark red, and then everything that's related to that is going to be slightly lighter color of red.
And why is clothed?
That's in a super light red because it's something that only humans do. How many animals get clothed on their own? Not many.
Abu has a nice hat.
What?
Abu likes his hat.
Abu does like his hat. Okay, fine. This is my color coding. This is not someone else's system. This is my system. Yep. I'm still figuring it out, if we're being really honest. Like, it's changing as I go. Well, so here's the other thing, is that this system is me trying to find as many hyperlinks as I can and find as many like places where it tends to repeat itself, because when it repeats itself, it's trying to point to something in between those places where it repeats itself, or they're trying to point at each other, right?
What's the bold underline?
Bold underline is when there's a connecting word like with or like or a direction or a movement, not necessarily like up, down, left, right, like, but then also like with or against, or like it's how they interact with one another.
And then numbers are italics bold?
Yes, numbers or assumptions of numbers. So like many or all, yes, but also just straight up numbers. Or periods of time. So like days, months, yes.
What about the purple?
The purple, so with Revelation, purple changes for me. So purple in Genesis was saw, took, ate, right? Right? No, but specifically, not verbs. Verbs are orange. But when there are verbs that are like the key theme going through the whole course of the scriptures that I found. So, yes. So heard and see, when it's one of those two, heard is going to be a lighter color purple, and seeing stuff is going to be a darker color purple. Does that make sense? Okay, good talk. A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was with child. She cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Then another sign appeared in the heavens. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems. What is a diadem? Anybody? It's like a crown. Yeah, Cameron. That should be in purple and lighter pinkish, not in red, but that's okay. And his tail wiped away. That word is flood language. Just like when God wiped the earth clean, his tail wiped away 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that she would, when she gave birth, he might devour her child. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. Psalm 2, anyone? Yes? Okay, good talk. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. Yeah, what a weird line, eh? He was moved, taken up, right? Caught up. The thing that I hearken back to when I read caught up is that 1 Thessalonians 5 when it says we'll be caught up together with him in the air. Yeah? That's what I hyperlink back to, but I don't know what you guys hyperlink back to. Any other hyperlinks for caught up? No? Okay. I want you guys to see which hyperlink you hyperlink to in this next section. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God so that she would be nourished for 1,260 days. What?
Immediately I thought of Hagar.
Yes, Hagar is where I go to immediately too.
And then
But the 1,260 days, which is also 42 months again. Wait, why are we back at 42 months? This is a different diorama. And there was war in the heavens. Michael. Who's Michael? How do we know that?
That's a great question. I don't know.
The thing that informs me of that is actually the book of Jude.
Oh, Jude.
Because it calls him Michael the Archangel in the book of Jude, which is one chapter long, 25 verses. Did you just start singing the Beatles? Is that what just happened? Okay, good talk. Moving onward. Okay, we're going to keep going. Michael and his messengers waging war with the dragon. And the dragon and his messengers waged war, and they were not strong enough. That I hyperlinked to The Incredibles. I'm not strong enough. There was no longer a place found for them in heaven. Was this happening in the future, or is this happening in the past, or is this the present? Yeah. The question is really difficult to answer. So, okay, here's why I bring that up. Because who's the dragon? Do we know who the dragon is yet? No, it's mentioned later. I think that's chapter 13, but I'm not sure. Hang on, let me scroll down and see. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's in 13. It's in 13 that he talks about who the dragon is? No? Where?
It says in verse 9 of this chapter.
And the great dragon was thrown down, an ancient serpent.
Oh, yes, there it is. Okay, so it's just right past that. Right. So, we know who the dragon is. Wait, where have we heard about... Can we back up for just a second and talk about where we've heard about the great sea dragon first? Where does he show up?
Job.
He is the Leviathan in Job. But what else is he? The Tanim. Where's the first mention of the word Tanim in the scriptures?
Is it in Genesis right before Noah?
No, it's in Genesis 1.
Genesis 1.
It's day 5. The great sea monster. Wild, yes? We have lots of hyperlinks and connections that you're like... I need to apologize right now, because some of you are hearing Great Sea Dragon and you're thinking Genesis, and you're like, dude, you need to elaborate on this.
No, I remember.
Okay, we've talked about this before, yes, to a certain extent. If you guys really want to dig into the great dragon, and you're like, this is interesting to me, especially if your name's Malachi, there is a whole Bible Project podcast series on dragons in the scriptures. It's like, I want to say 7 or 10 episodes long. Like, it's a long series. It's like 10 hours long. And they just talk about dragons in the Bible. It's so worthwhile. Please go listen to it. I can't summarize 10 hours of Bible Project podcast in like 5 minutes. It's not fair to anyone. Deal? Deal. Good talk. Okay. So, they were not strong enough. There was no place for them found in the heavens, and the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his messengers were thrown down with him. Who are his messengers? What does that even mean? Then I heard a loud voice saying, now. When is now? That's so confusing. The rescue and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah have come. Wait, don't they come at the end? Or did they show up when Jesus showed up? Or did they show up at the beginning? When was God's power like there? When was he reigning over the earth? There's not a like clear answer. Don't go looking at the Bible being like, the Bible's going to answer this really clearly and easily for me. It doesn't. It says, hey, ponder this a whole bunch and wrestle with it, like Jacob wrestled with God. Yeah? Okay, moving on. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down. So they're celebrating. He who accuses them before our God day and night. Wait, wasn't he thrown down from the heavens? How does he accuse them before God? And they overcame him. This is like the epitome. Who's they? Our brothers. They overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness. And they did not love their life even when faced with death. This right here is the hinge of all of those letters to the churches where it says, the one who overcomes How do they overcome? This is how they overcome. How many chapters later is that? That's 10 chapters later than the first mention of overcoming. No, 11. This is chapter 12. But it was mentioning how the dragon overcame the prophets, right? And notice that the dragon overcomes the prophets by killing them. And these people overcome by the blood of the lamb, that's the lamb being sacrificed for them. And they overcome by the word of their testimony, so it's by speaking. And the fact that they didn't love their life even though they're faced with death. That's how you overcome. So wait, when the end of all things comes, and during the rest of our lives, how do we overcome if we're following Jesus genuinely? Not by any sort of violence in any way, shape, or form. The overcoming comes by relying on the sacrifice of Jesus, sharing what God has done for us, and then being willing to lay down our lives for the people around us. You guys seeing that? This right here, this is the pivot of the book of Revelation. Everything kind of hinges on this, right in the middle of the book. Kind of like a chiasm where like the most important part's right square in the middle. It's kind of convenient that this is in chapter 12. And how many chapters are there in the book of Revelation? Not 24, I wish there were. But this is more or less in the middle. Interesting, yeah? Super interesting. For this reason, you rejoice, O heavens. Oh, did you have a question, Ezra, or are you just scratching your head? Okay. Rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea. So wait, remember back in Genesis when they created like a 3-tiered universe where there's like the sea and the earth and the heavens? So the heavens get to rejoice, but the seas and the earth are woeing. Whoa. Because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. How long is a short time?
It's relative. Time is relative.
Time is very relative.
10,000 years.
Maybe. We'll find out. And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down, you think he would have noticed that when it happened. This is a weird sentence. Just starting with that, you're like, say what? And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he oppressed the woman who gave birth to the male child. That brings me back to that hyperlink back to Hagar, when Sarah oppressed the woman. Interesting, yeah? Male child. Oh, child is hype. I did it wrong. Hold on, friends. It's this one. Oh, it's not hot pink. That one. All the way to the right?
Wait, can you go back up? Wait, so you highlighted. Okay, never mind. I got it.
I used to highlight any non-specific mention of a human in yellow, but now I just use that for pronouns.
I was just wondering what color you did the dragon, but that makes sense.
You have a dark color for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like pink.
How come wilderness is?
Because every time they go to the wilderness, bad stuff happens.
That's correct. Every time you go to the wilderness, bad stuff happens. It's never good out in the wilderness, and the wilderness is where Cain gets kicked out into. He leaves the garden. When you're not in the garden, in the presence of God, you are out in the wilderness. Yes, unsheltered. Yes, no home. Maddie Kate, do you have a question?
Kinda. Could this reminds me of what Nick and Seth said last year about the dragon? Could this also be a reference back to the serpent oppressing Eve?
Yes.
She was the mother of.
It could be. Mm-hmm. It's like the guy's thinking about all of the places where people who act as the serpent or the serpent oppress someone.
Because there are two different words. The serpent used in chapter 3 is different than serpent used in chapter 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
But they both say serpent in the word.
Yeah.
It's two different Hebrew words.
Yes. Precisely. And so he's making that connection in Revelation. It's like he's interpreting all of the connections from the Hebrew scriptures and saying, these are connected, even though they weren't connected in the Hebrew scriptures. Which is exactly what he's doing with Zechariah and what he's doing with Ezekiel and what he's doing with the Psalms. He's making connections that we hadn't connected before. Interesting, yes? Kind of, nah, we won't get into that. Too many layers. But, okay, so the woman who was getting oppressed who had given birth to a male child. But the 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman. Why is eagle in blue? What was I doing when I highlighted that one? That's the wrong color. Sorry about that, friends. That's supposed to be in green. Wait, where are the 2 wings of the great eagle previously?
All I can think about is the creature that looks like an eagle.
Yeah, there's a creature that looks like an eagle in Isaiah and in Revelation and in Ezekiel. And then, okay, there is a place where women with wings like birds shows up in the Bible. They are in Zechariah. Of course they are. But it's not in reference to that. It's in a totally different reference in Zechariah chapter 5, which is one of the most confusing chapters, where there's a woman in a basket, and the angel opens up the lid to the basket and says, "This is wickedness," and slams her down into the basket and then slams the lid on top, and then these 2 women with wings like wings of an eagle come and grab the basket and take it away. And the angel turns to the guy and says, "They're going to the land of Shinar, where she will have a temple set up for her and be put on a pedestal."
Where's that?
That's what?
Whoa.
That reference is in Zechariah chapter 5.
What does that mean?
Exactly, Keone. What does that mean?
I feel like, yeah, like
That's what I'm reminded of.
Wait, what are you reminded of?
There's these like Greek mythology. There's like 3 women with wings that are evil and like. Are they dwarves? Yeah, those guys. Or the harpies? Yeah, the harpies.
Whoa.
They sound like.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, let's be real, this guy's probably writing in like 70 or 80 AD. He's probably using them as inspiration. How many of these mystical characters, mystical-ish characters, I should say, how many of them are things that we've actually, like you and I have actually seen in our lives? I've never seen anything like this. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. What I'm trying to say is, biblical authors will use just about anything to try to connect with their audiences. This could be something that actually exists and is actually happening, or it could be a picture, like a political cartoon, of something that's going on behind the curtain in the heavenly realms, which is exactly what a revelation is. Yes? Yeah. Okay. So that she could fly into the wilderness to her place. Wait, that place where she was nourished for 1,000, how many days is that? 1,260 days. Where she was nourished for a time, and times, and half a time. Wait, 1 time, and then times, plural, and half a time. 3.5. 3.5 what? Whoa! Wait, what? From the face of the serpent. And the serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth. Well, that's a weird image. Doesn't a serpent or a dragon normally breathe fire? But now he's breathing chaos water after the woman, that he might cause her to be swept away with the flood. Wait, which flood? Noah's flood? Where are we? With mouth water. There are so many images being like borrowed.
I'm just like imagining you dragging or like sitting down and like grassy and then there's a river coming.
Isn't it a weird image? It's a very weird image. So the men who are the prophets of God have fire coming out of their mouths like dragons, and the dragon, who you'd think would have fire coming out of his mouth, is breathing water. Unless it's a blue dragon, obviously they breathe water or ice. Duh. Who would have guessed? Or they breathe blue fire, but that's not, oh gosh, now we're getting into, nope, don't want to go there. Moving on. What time are we at? How much time do we have?
44.
Are you guys having fun yet?
Yes.
Okay, good. You ready for it to get weirder? But the earth, wait, not God, but the earth helped the woman. And the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon poured out of his mouth. So the dragon was enraged with the woman, not the earth. What? And went off to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the witness of Jesus. Those are the children of the woman? What is happening? It sounds a ton like Greek mythology. It also sounds a ton like a combination of Eve, the woman, the mother of all creation. Yeah. And it sounds like Mary, the mother of Jesus, who escapes into Egypt when the flood of chaos, a.k.a. Herod trying to kill Jesus when he's 2 years old. Yes. All of those map onto each other. It's hyperlinking everywhere, friends. But the earth swallowing up the flood. How does the earth swallow up the flood? Gabe?
You said Jesus, not Heracles.
Yeah, no. I was talking about Mary and Jesus when she escapes Herod. In Matthew chapter 2, do you guys remember that story? Yes? So Herod, like the Magi come from the east, which is another, magicians from the east. So wait, the east, where everything bad happens, out in the wilderness, the magicians are coming saying, hey, where's the one who's been born the King of the Jews? We saw his star over in the east when it rose, and we've come here to worship him. The magicians are recognizing that the Messiah, God's King, has showed up, and the Jews are missing it. And then Herod's like, oh, tell me where he is so I can go worship him too. And then he wants to go kill him. Does it sound like Pharaoh trying to kill all the Hebrew babies in Exodus chapter 1 and 2? Yes, it does. Wild. Yeah? Wait, so Israel has become Egypt? Oh! Yeah!
Did you say Israel became Egypt?
Yes, it did. Spend a couple hours tripping on that one, friends.
Whoa, it just hit me.
How fun is the book of Revelation when you sit in it? Yeah? All right, we're going to stop there. Who has questions? Just a few? Okay. Who has thoughts or comments? Colin's just looking at me like, bro, that was the most confusing thing you've ever said in your entire life. Colin, I'm sorry. Thank you for forgiving me. If you ever want to sit down and talk about it, you just say, hey, when are we going to sit down and talk about Revelation, bro? That's all you have to do. Yeah? Yes. Lauren.
Okay, so this question's been in my brain for like 2 years.
Okay. Sweet. You've been meditating on this one a little bit, huh?
Kind of not really.
Oh, okay.
So, I was in a Bible study,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy brought up the verse that says, no one except for God, not even the Son of Man.
Mm-hmm.
Knows when the time will come. I didn't say that right. But
Yeah.
So, that means that the devil doesn't even know.
Precisely.
And he said that that could mean that he has an antichrist for every generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Hitler would be one.
Maybe. Yeah. So, when you attempt to map this on... Oh, continue. Sorry, forgive me.
Sorry, but an antichrist, would that be someone who has a lot of, well, I guess, I don't know. I've never really,
Who is the Antichrist, is what you're wondering?
like, yes, and like how much power do they have, and would it be over the whole world or just a nation?
So, this is where I'm like, please, that series of 10 episodes on the dragon in the Bible Project podcast, please go listen to those, because they will make this make so much more sense than me trying to answer this in 3 sentences. I will do my very best in these 3 sentences, but that's as much as I can do, right? It will answer that a whole heck of a lot more. Whew. Okay. In the book of Genesis in chapter 4, God talks to Cain about sin is crouching at the door, trying to get into you. You can resist it. It's like there's a beast attempting to pounce on Cain, but it's not. It's trying to use Cain to turn Cain into what would be like a beast to kill Abel. Yes? All of a sudden, Cain, a human, an image bearer of God, puts on a beast-like, dragon-like clothing to do violence to another image of God. Do you see how that works? When an antichrist shows up, they function in a very similar manner. But as we see here, I wish we could have gotten to 13 and 14, where the whole earth goes after the dragon and the beast and worship them, because they have all this power that looks like the image of God, but it is not. Right? And so when you, I want to contend that anything that is anti-Messiah, like we think about Antichrist and you think that's like a title into itself. It's just anything that is the epitome of the opposite of what the Messiah looks like, right? So anything that's trying to attempt to draw you away from being an anointed one, bearing God's image and bringing heaven on the kingdom of heaven to earth, anything that's drawing you away from that, that has the spirit of Antichrist all over it, right? And some people are going to do it by expressing immense power in violent ways. Some are going to express it in power that's a monetary power. Some are going to express it in like a power of charisma, where they just have the power to like influence people in ways that you would not expect, right? And it's not necessarily a mystical power. It's just a power of, instead of giving life to everyone around them and to the earth, they are taking and taking and taking and taking. It's the spirit of Cain and the spirit of Adam and Eve when they take from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? That's showing up at the beginning of Genesis, and it's showing up here in the book of Revelation, all at the same time. When you see an Antichrist, it's not, oh my gosh, this is like the end times. It is, they are just the opposite of what it looks like to follow Jesus. And they are breaking everything and everyone around them. And nobody cares because they think it's so cool to have that kind of power. And so they just let go of everything and say, you can have all the power you want, do whatever you want, because you can take and take and take. You notice how right now, well, maybe not quite as much now, but the last like 20 years of my life, when I watch people who are quote unquote powerful, they can just take whatever they want. They can just do whatever they want and no one can say anything about it. That seems like the spirit of the Antichrist to me. And it doesn't mean that they are the Antichrist. It just means that they are so opposed to what it means to follow Jesus that they are destroying the world. But nobody seems to notice because they're cool. Yeah? Does that make some of the sense of that? Okay. Continue.
There's that one verse that says, like, if someone says, here's the Messiah, come and see, don't go.
You're spending a lot of time in Matthew chapter 24, aren't you? That's where all of those references are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to be confusing? Or do you think it's going to be, like, I don't know, clear if you're a Christian? I don't know.
So, what?
You don't have to have an answer. I was just...
That's like a cup of coffee and like a 4-hour talk is what that is, right? For everybody involved. And that's not a sit down in a classroom. That's a let's bring all of our questions on what it means to follow Jesus. Because if you ask the question of what does it mean to genuinely be a little Christ, like a Christian, a little Messiah, what does that mean? Like you can summarize it in one sentence, but also like what does it mean to not be a Christian? Like there are lots of people that call themselves followers of Jesus that when they live their life out, it doesn't really look like there's fruit being produced, right? And it doesn't mean that they're not following Jesus. It just means it doesn't look like it. What are they like? What makes someone a follower of Jesus? And when you sit in that, all of a sudden you get to ask yourself, and you can't really apply this to anyone else. You can just say, well, what I see them doing doesn't seem to produce the results that God desires, if we're quoting James, right? So let's see if we can produce the fruit that God requires. But wait, we don't want to do that by looking at the fruit. We want to do that by looking at Jesus. If I follow Jesus, the fruit just comes naturally. So are these people obsessed with Jesus? Do they smell like Jesus? Do they walk like Jesus? Do they act like Jesus? If they do those things, my guess is they're followers of Jesus. But if people are saying, look, here's the Messiah. Look, here's the Messiah. Look, this person's the next biggest thing. That's just people like pursuing a popularity contest again, right? And then there's these people attempting to take in the midst of that. If you notice that there's a spirit of taking happening, when someone's saying, look at this Christian, they're so cool, you can say, that looks a little fishy, and leave it alone. It doesn't mean you have to say, whoa, that's the Antichrist, because you don't know. It might be, it might not be. But their fruit will tell you everything about them over time. Yes? So, it will both be simultaneously confusing and pretty clear. Yes? Okay. Does that make sense to the rest of you? You guys following? I told you at the beginning, I'm going to tell you again right here. In Revelation, there's like a chapter and a half that's about the end times. And it's at the very end of the book. The rest of this whole book is not about the end times at all. It's just about a revelation of what it means to follow Jesus. Yeah? This is not end time stuff. This is just telling a story that's a revelation of Jesus right here. And how it maps onto how we've looked at history and the present and possibly the future. Yes? Cool. Let's pray, then let's be done. God, your word is living and active. It's sharper than any double-edged sword. It divides things. It inspires thoughts. It challenges us so much. As we meditate on these words, would you meet with us? Would we be children of that woman? The ones who keep your commandments and hold to the witness of Jesus. That's what we want to be. We love you. We want to chase after you. Help us do that in these moments when things are confusing and when things all of a sudden make sense. Would it just be stuff that points us closer and closer to you so we can walk more with you? In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, friends.
That was a lot.
Welcome to class.